Waiting on my caffeine and the nicotine and my medicine to kick in,
Mm-hmm.
so I can get back to zero. You know,
Yeah,
that's been
absolutely.
the day. It's just been crawling back to zero.
It's all about fighting for that dopamine. You know what I mean?
Oh, they've now changed it so that it doesn't say live at the top anymore. It says recording when we're recording.
Interesting.
Finally. Been waiting on that for a very long time.
Yeah, because it's actually
It always says live, and I'm like telling people
poignant.
we're
Yeah.
not doing it live. It just says live, but it's fixed now, so it's all
I wonder if
good.
it says something different if you actually go live.
Probably, I'd imagine.
Interesting. But then
But
will you always be wondering if it's recording?
it's always recording.
Ah, okay.
Even if it's live, it's recorded because I can download it after the fact. So that's how I
Ah.
upload, like pull the audio after Snakes and Stogies and stuff. But
Well, there you go.
here we are. It's episode 20 of CornStars. 20 plus hours of listening to Chris and I ramble. Longer than that, actually. It's been like a full
Yeah.
24 hours straight of listening to Chris ramble. But here we are. This episode is brought to you by blackboxcages.com. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram. Use the code THN to check out on Blackbox's website when you go to check out, and get yourself a little bit of a discount on any rack or cage that you end up ordering. Really good products. I think Chris is going to be getting him some soon.
I am. Been doing some measuring in the room, kind of trying to decide what we have space for, and I think we're going to be getting a rack and possibly a cage. I haven't really decided. I'm also working on possibly bringing in a 6-pack of ARS FB20s or FB90s. Sorry, FB90s. I think
Oh,
maybe. We're definitely making some changes over the next probably 2 weeks, so that's exciting.
what rack are you going to go with as far as the black box stuff goes?
The perfect one for me is going to be the XT20, the one with
The
15s,
35s,
18s, and
yeah.
V35Ss.
Yep.
So for me, that's going to be, and I'm get that dual zone, baby. You know what I mean? Get that
Yeah.
dual zone. So I'm going to do leopard gecko hatchlings on the bottom because I can hit them at 90, and then at the top, I'm not even going to turn the heat on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll probably put female. Leonis and stuff above that, so that they'll kind of hit that like 80 to 82 degrees probably,
Yeah.
with no heat on them, and vibe it out. So pretty. I'm actually extremely excited to get some of their products in. My whole room is sea serpents, and I do stand by their product too. But I'm excited for somebody that's been supporting the show and been such a powerful movement in this hobby with such quality products to be able to get my hands on them and really enjoy them.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed by it, man. That because that's what I've got a good chunk of the collection in right now as far as younger stuff is I've got an
Yeah,
XR16, an XR20, which is basically the same rack. There's just two more
two or
levels
two
on
levels separate. Yeah,
the 20. So it's great. I think it's the fact that you can use 3 different size tubs and sort of upgrade as you go without having to buy an entirely new rack is a pretty big deal.
yeah.
I feel like that kind of gets overlooked a lot. That's instead of having to buy an entirely new rack as your snakes grow out of that one, you just up the tubs until they're to the point to where they do need to be moved into, a V70 or something similar. So, but if you're not into racks and you want cages, they've got plenty of options there. You won't be
God,
disappointed
the options.
either.
So
Yeah,
much stuff.
man, it's crazy. Having their cages as well, fully stand by them as just as much as the racks. You won't be disappointed with them. They look good. They hold temperatures and everything perfectly. They're zero issues. So that BioG is probably one of my favorite size cages because it's been extremely versatile in terms of what I can keep in them, and the size is just right to where it's not too big for smaller stuff. It's not too small for small adult, sub-adult stuff. Like I have some. One of the adult rhinos is in one right now, and he does great in it. And then the Persimmon is in the model that's basically 2 of those put together, which is the XA Bio 3. and it looks snazzy. It looks good. So
yeah.
But
that's
when
the BioG is 18 by 1824.
Yes,
I think it is. Yeah,
I believe so.
Good
No,
size.
it's got to be bigger than that.
I think it may be bigger than that. That might be the
24,
24, 24.
No. Off the top of my head,
Anyways, we'll have to look it up.
It's like a 24, 18, 24 or something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah.
But
But it's an awesome size.
Yeah, it's great. They stack nicely. They look good. And then I got it has the deeper front so that you can have, bioactive, you have substrate layers and all that stuff, which I don't. I just like having that bigger barrier to give the animals a little bit more of a hiding area, but more of a visual barrier from everything going on outside. So once you get a rack or you get a cage and then you need something to put in it, you need to head over to silenthillreptiles.com and you need to see all of the corns that JT did not intend to produce this year, but managed to make happen. So
I laugh every time. Yeah, dude killed it on his ear off.
He's got some awesome stuff. I've got some of it. I know Chris has some of it. Every animal I've got from him was rock solid. Has been completely issue free.
Oh yeah.
So go check out what they've got going on silenthillreptiles.com, and then you need to head over to fulviusapparel.com, get yourself a shirt. Be like Chris. Don't look like a bum.
I don't know how to do it. Mirrors freak me out. Yeah.
Don't play with yourself.
Come on now.
Don't be getting excited. Also use the code THN at checkout and get 15% off. That's just for THN listeners and viewers like you. A little special discount code just for the people that listen.
High quality shirts, man. It's kind of my go-to. I've got all different colors from you and loving it. Everybody needs to get on the bandwagon because it's awesome. I get tons of questions about them too.
Do you really?
Yeah, I was wearing the Brevis shirt last week at the mall with my kid, of all things, and somebody was like, "Hey, man, what's up with that shirt?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a Reptile brand, and they do, kind of sit there like, man, I just like it's a Texas shirt." And they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to check it out." So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
New CornStars shirts are up.
Yeah, I need to get some from you. I keep forgetting.
I know. I'm gonna send you one or two of them. I'm gonna get around to it.
Yeah.
It's been work's been crazy. Been trying to get out from under some larger orders, and as soon as I do that, more show up, which isn't a bad problem to have. But it does make things hectic when you have to sprinkle in smaller orders, not only of Fulvia stuff, but other people's orders too. It's a lot of juggling. Mm-hmm. But if you go to fulviusapparel.com, new CornStar shirts are up there. It's a kind of weird because I went one route. Like I was originally going to go one route with that design, and then as I was working on it, it just kind of completely went different directions, and I'm happy with it. I think it's pretty cool. So,
dude, it's an awesome shirt. I've got a couple friends that I know are going to want to get some too. It's just a fun design. Another good one.
Yeah. And I tried to get our overlay here with the new like text and stuff, but I didn't think about the fact that it's not showing like the background, so you can't see the CornStars. I mean, you can if I take my very pale hand and arm right there.
That was like me struggling when you sent me the logo. I was like, I do not understand how this works.
What's a computer?
What is a computer?
Oh. But other than that, get into updates real quick.
I am still hatching snakes. I cannot stop. I just had another clutch, the dual clutch or double clutch of conjunct to hatch. It was 5 eggs. One didn't make it out. 3 females, 1 male. 3 males, 1 female. So that complicates things. A lot of males this year, a lot of females last year. I've got still my clutch of Everglades rats going. I've got 2 Leachianus eggs and probably another 2 on the way. She's been digging, and 2 leopard gecko eggs, 2 Leachianus eggs left, and that's God. I hope that's it. I hope that's it for the season. I don't want to see another baby animal. I just straight to feeding it to a king snake.
I feel like you say that every year, though. Like you get to the end of the season, you're like, make it stop.
Yeah, and it's
turn it off.
My last 2 corn snakes that didn't eat ate on Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 5 Alterna and 1 Leonis left to eat. And one of the 2 Eastern king snakes I picked up has still not eaten. And that's all right. They're still big and healthy looking. And then I'll have all my non-feeders done, and I have little tags on each of my, my Mexicana, as to what they're eating. The Alterna boiled with this scent, or gecko skin, or this or that. So that's all the leopards are getting big. I've got stuff that I'm going to be able to start putting to market soon. This weekend, I'm going to take pictures of all my corn snakes, because I've got, I think, 18, probably 18 or 20 left. And I'm down to only 13 holdbacks. And
you say that with pride.
Last year I had so many. So this year I've only got 13, and I'm probably going to whittle a couple of those down. Yeah, man, what a lot to a season. I've still got stuff just like in random tubs, just like out because they didn't fit in all my racks. But feeling really good about it. This was a complex season. There was a lot of things that happened during it. There was a lot of animals, a lot of new stuff for me. But I've been able to ship stuff out. I put a lot of cool stuff in a lot of good friends' hands. So yeah, it's been good. What about you? Dude, them rhinos, baby. What's up?
Nothing really new there. Each of them ate a rosy red. I'm gonna try floating some pinkies this weekend, seeing how that does. Second hypo clutch is due to hatch. We're on day 62, so I mean within the next probably week or so that should be popping.
I still need updated pictures of those, man.
Yeah, I mean I'm still waiting on the first batch. Really hasn't gone into their second sheds or anything yet, which has been odd. But I wonder if that has just anything to do with the feeding thing that's been I've been doing with them. You know, if I'm only feeding them on Saturdays, like once a week, they're just getting fed. So
yeah,
I have a hunch that feeding them less frequently than like that in comparison to like the Het Castagna Motley babies, which some of them are going into their second sheds already, and they hatched later. That slower schedule for the hypos is I think they're using more of those meals, and it's not causing them to grow as much or as get as much size on them, even though they are gaining. Like the cut group is gaining weight, they're still gaining a steady like half a gram a week in comparison to the uncut group. So
yeah, the idea that babies have to be fed every 3 to 5 days, I'm really starting to feel like that's just not. That's some really tiny babies come out and really do need. Yeah, but it really gets pushed a lot. I saw a feeding chart somebody posted recently, and I was like, man, every 3 days, dude, my stuff would be thrown out. I'm a avid person that cooler temperatures are better for these animals. You don't find them at 85 degrees. You just don't. And those 2 corns that just ate for the first time that hatched out, 8 weeks ago, somewhere around there, are beautiful, healthy snakes. They didn't look like they had dropped much weight at all. And I've got my super salmon snows that I hatched out were tiny. I'm talking tiny snakes, like a gram. The whole clutch was for some reason. Wow. Big eggs, tiny babies. It's just how they came out. And some of those are on their second, possibly going into their third shed, and they're smaller than almost all my other clutches. So it's an interesting thing to kind of look at. Oh, another update for me is I'm going to be wrapping up my social media break. I went on a 1 month social media break after Daytona to just kind of cleanse my palate a little bit. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of shapoopies, and just didn't necessarily need to continuously see that. And chose all on my own to kind of just step away. And it's really cleared my head. I've been reading a lot more. Let me focus on the stuff that I'm doing with my reptiles, and focus on my family, and it'll be good. Doing that, I try to do that once a year. I always find a kind of specific point of time to do it, and go for about a month to 6 weeks. And it's kind of funny. I come back and I don't really see myself on social media that much for the first couple months. Then it kind of deleteriously grows and grows and grows. And now I'm posting and checking, and So I'm still trying to post on the weekends and stuff, but it's been nice. It's been interesting. If anybody's messaged me, I've tried to message everybody back, but it's been cool. It's been a clean time on my brain. Kind of get my dopamine and serotonin little chunks from other places. And it's been a nice reminder that really doesn't always necessarily matter what other people do. I mean, me and you still text, me and Jake still text, me and some of the other guys still chat. So, still here for all of our friends. Still, everybody loves everybody. Nothing like that. So, it's good.
I don't know, because I sent you a text with the link, and all I got in response was "bitch."
I was like shoving food. I was forcing it into my mouth, just swallowing. I wasn't even chewing, and I was like, bleh. So that was that's what that came from.
Oh, see, now you can see it when I adjust it, but I don't know. Either way, yeah. So second clutch is due to hatch. I got some more Bairds, 2 more Bairds. That 4-egg clutch, 2 of those eggs are definitely tanking. So there's 2 eggs that are good there. Those will hatch soon within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then we're getting down to the wire on that Jansenii egg. I think today is day 135. So on paper, we've got about 10 days left.
Ooh.
But it could hatch anytime between now and then still. We'll see. So
it's tough, man.
That's nerve-wracking. But
I've gone 134 days on a lychee before.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first ones. Temps are a little warmer now just because more stuff in the room. But yeah, dude, it takes a while, man. It's scary.
It goes by quick though if you just ignore it and don't think about it.
I don't ignore it or not think about that.
It was May that thing was laid. It's like the very beginning of May, like the 2nd of May,
awesome,
when she dropped that clutch.
It's gonna be so cool.
And I remember when she dropped it, I was like, man, this is gonna take forever. It's gonna be the longest, 4 months, 3 months, whatever of my life. 4 months.
Yeah.
But now we're here, and it's like, okay, of course it's the last week that's going to drag the most, but
oh yeah.
Other than that,
because now you're going to check it when you wake up. You're going to check it before.
Oh, I still do. I peek in on it because I've got I also quarantine everything from Daytona that's in quarantine is in the closet, which is where my incubator is. So, yeah, I check on stuff in there regardless. But that Leonis from you is rocking and rolling. That thing's at least 4 meals deep at this point.
Nice,
just had a second shed. Growing like a weed. Everything I was telling Alan before we started, everything from Daytona now is just absolutely rocking and rolling. Everything's really hungry all the time, ready to grab. So doesn't matter if it's Leonis or Corns. So it's good.
Yeah, you got all good stuff, man. I'm saying everything I got, eating, crunching, except for one little Eastern King, which is funny. I don't even think those things have had their first shed yet because they both shed like 2 weeks after I got them. And I was like, well, they haven't ever eaten. So I knew it going into it, right? Like it wasn't, Howie Sherman sold them to me. He was like, hey, these things I haven't eaten. Try this, and this. I tried all that, but like I said, one of them's going. So the other one, it might put some tail. I mean, I'm going to start tailing Alterna probably in 2 weeks. So
those with the Leonis, and I was thinking about this because I don't remember what I was listening to. I was listening to something else, or I just got to thinking about it. But with the Leonis, have you done any scenting with Scoloporus?
No. The main scents that I use with them are Brevis. So with Leonis, it's like frozen thawed, right? And I always, every clutch I get 1 or 2 will take a frozen thawed, usually, right? And then the next step is boiling. Boiling, I'll usually get 1 or 2 more, sometimes more. I think last year I got most of them on boiled right away. Then I go washed and brained because it's just an easy one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go washed, boiled, and then rub it into my my Brevis juice. I have a little couple tinctures of Brevis, and then usually it'll go wash, not boiled, Brevis, rub it in there. Usually by then I've got all the Leonis. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Also, gecko juice from the frozen gecko juice. I forget the name of the brand.
Reptilinks.
Yeah. That stuff has worked for me before. You wash the pink, put a little bit on that. I have it. I've got that. I've got the anole juice. I got the frog juice. got tuna, I got brevis, I got scaloporus,
I just wonder if the Scaloporus, because that works so well with the Alterna for me. I wonder if it was a similar thing, because I think Phil and Harry both with the Leonis.
Yeah.
Neither of them have gotten them to take, and so the more I think about it, the more I wonder if Scaloporus would work as well as it did.
Yeah, maybe. Well, the one I gave Phil was already eating. It had already had 2 meals boiled.
No, then Phil just sucks if that's the case.
I'll talk to him. I'll tell him to try boiled. Maybe he hasn't tried boiled. Harry's got everything eating. Harry might not have the one from
me. The one from you is not. He said everything
the only
else,
one not eating.
He's got everything else rocking and rolling, which is awesome.
Yeah, they do that too. Dude, Leonis are like Alterna. When they start eating, they won't miss a meal if you're feeding them what they want. For some reason, Leonis will occasionally go on and off as babies. I've seen that. Scaloporus is Alterna crack, dude. It's almost always, it works every time until it doesn't work, and then you're gonna go ground skink or do some Alterna straight up don't eat, right? Like it doesn't matter. They're just not gonna do it. You got to brumate them, and then you hear these crazy stories. People are like, yeah, just go rub the pinky in dirt that's on the east side of your house. I was like, all right, I don't know, I'll try that. So.
But when it's a blood moon, go outside and collect the pine needles from a loblolly pine. And
dude, I'll never figure it out. I'll have a clutch, and I'll have one that'll eat a frozen thought out of the egg and eat frozen thought every single time. And then like 5 will not eat for like.
You gotta
2 months.
wonder, man.
So
like, where's the disconnect? Like,
and it's so funny. Alterna guys are like I bought a male Juno Road this year that wasn't eating, and the guy that I bought it from breeds all kinds of Alterna, and he was like, hey, I think it's about to start eating. And I was like, why do Alterna guys it's about to go? And guess what? It's eaten frozen thoughts since the day I got it with no problems. Like I literally got it, gave it a frozen thought pinky, and it was like, oh, delicious, a pinky.
Sweet.
And it was a 2022 that had been brumated and never eaten. And I just gave it a pinky. Dude, they're so weird. I don't know. They're it's like the most amazing species in the world, and it's also the most frustrating.
Fair. Well, this week we are very excited to have Alan Rock join us of Rock Creek Corns. Been trying to make this happen for a while. We met Alan at Daytona, which was awesome. I picked up a castagna from him and a little zombie motley action, and managed to make an episode happen. So we're here.
Yeah,
and
excited.
Really glad to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to talk some corns.
Oh yeah, man. I need some corn talk. When we had started this podcast, Alan, your name had come up a few times, and then once we found out you were buddies with
Alex
Horvath, we heard a lot of good things. We were excited to bring you in and kind of start chatting with you about how you did things and where it all came from. So probably a good place to start with it. You want to maybe tell us, you don't have, you can give us long version, short version, but kind of where you came in with Reptiles and how that path led you to corns.
All right. Well, I guess it started when I was 5. I was down at a pet store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and assistant teacher or assistant professor came in from the biology department and said, "Hey, do you think your parents will let you have this baby boa?" And I got the instant no from my mom, and that was the catalyst that put the idea of owning snakes in my mind. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and before long, I was out catching garter snakes and eastern milks and just anything I could get my hands on. Started a colony of garter snakes underneath my front porch, which my mom loved in the summer. We had bush hedges, and you could go out on a midsummer day and see 15, 20, 30 2 and 3 foot long garter snakes. It was awesome. Moved on from that and put myself through college breeding Burmese pythons.
Nice.
And I had some corns back in the day. That was a long time ago. The exciting morphs back then were amels and motleys. And I had some of those and bred those, enjoyed them. Got away from reptiles for a while And then my son in Boy Scouts started doing the Reptile Merit Badge. Kind of got me back into it.
Nice.
I had been intrigued by the palmettos when they were discovered. And I thought, what better way to get back into corns and eventually work my way into palmettos than to help him and all of the other scouts with reptile merit badges. So I actually became a merit badge instructor, bred a couple corns, and gave all the scouts who had permission free corn snakes and setups and everything else.
Hell yeah.
That's so cool. That's so awesome.
What was the that was one thing I was actually curious about too, was the berms. You know, what was the initial draw with those?
I like the bigger snakes, and I came across the berms. A couple of my friends had big berms, and they were breeding them, and one of them just gave me one of the babies, and that's why I went the berm route instead of the boa. My very first one, I got her at 18 inches long, and she eventually became my show snake. I did shows at the Roanoke Island Aquarium in North Carolina. I did Back Bay Wildlife in Virginia Beach. I was on the news a couple times. That particular snake went with me to the playground opening in Williamsburg, Virginia, that was funded by Bruce and Kathy Hornsby from Bruce Hornsby and the Range. They sponsored a playground in Williamsburg and asked me to come out and give a talk. So that particular snake was quite the ambassador.
Wow, that's great.
So at what point was it that you decided to pursue corns in terms of breeding on a regular basis and going down that route?
So we started with the hobby level, doing it with my son. He got more and more into the genetics, and we were really enjoying it. And it was a great bonding time, father and son. Then COVID came along, and my wife got laid off overnight via email.
Oh, nice.
And all of a sudden, we were a single income family for the first time since I was married. And we sat down and had a family meeting and talked about doing this as more than just a hobby. I love the hobby aspect of it. I do a lot of my projects. I breed for myself and for other breeders. It's what I want and what I enjoy. But then the other aspect is, what's going to sell? Yeah. What is in demand in the market? This is not Pokemon. I cannot keep them all. I have too many already.
See, the issue is we say that, but then we somehow continue.
I'm trying
to take on more. It's I'm talking about how overwhelmed I am with everything I have, and then it's like I got another chondro coming. I'm sending some stuff to Joe Peck. Joe's sending me some stuff. It's supposed to be getting some of those Spring Island corns at some point soon. Like, I'm like, what am I doing?
It's so hard. I do love one thing you said there, Alan, talking about it is and it is not a hobby. You talked about breeding things for yourself. I think you find the best, most successful in full-time breeders and in just people that go to shows a lot. You find the most success in people that breed for themselves first. If you're looking out for number one while you're doing this, your enjoyment is always escalating and always finding new ways to kind of show itself to you. Maybe I've got a project that I've worked on for 7 years, 8 years, and it comes to fruition. New things will spawn from that, and that's just hitting a nail on the head. You also got to make money. It's also an expensive hobby. This hobby can be damning on your free time, and it sounds like you've got you check the right boxes from the beginning, but are being smart about it. So that's awesome, man.
But corns were also something that I did with my dad. When I was a kid, around sometime between being 10 and 12 years old. So that's always been like for me, corns. There's like a soft spot and nostalgia for me from that. So as someone who had a parent that was into it and supported it, it was a big reason into why I stuck with it for so long.
That's my daughter now getting into leopard geckos, and now I have like enough to. I have enough leopard geckos, and but my kid still every day comes in, wants to play with her leopard geckos. Another one hatches. She's still excited. She still feeds them. She still takes care of them with me. It's special. So Alan, talking about corns. What does your collection look like? Is it all corns, or do you have some other stuff?
So I've got 2 dwarf Burmese pythons. Maybe someday I'll breed those. I have my son's full-size Burm. She's just young. She's going on 3, about in the 6.5 foot range. Hypogranite Burmese. And then I've got a few Brooks Kings. When you breed corn snakes, it's the most humane way to take care of slugs, deformities, or anything else that comes along with breeding more than 1 or 2 corn snake parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so every chef needs a trash compactor.
Yep. So free food for them, and I like them. They're fun. But that's what I have in the collection right now. It's primarily focused on the corns. I did start down the path of ball pythons and quickly stepped away from it because there's way too much competition. There are way too many genes, and you're always chasing the leader.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whereas in my market, I try to stay on the kind of the crest of the wave, and I don't have to be the leader, but I want to be up there with the animals that I'm known for. For the first several years, I was the palmetto guy because in my market, I was the only person not just bringing palmettos, but breeding palmettos and bringing the offspring and having the adults there to show. There's still not much competition in my market, but the overall market for the palmettos has gone down a bit. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm creating charcoal palmettos, blizzard palmettos. Next year, I hope to have lavender palmettos. I've got some butters, some caramel palmettos, just different flavors that are not in my market.
That's awesome. Excuse me. That's awesome. That's a hell of a smart way to do it too. So that's one of the questions we were going to ask is, so what is your main focus in corns? It sounds like doing a lot of different palmetto combinations. Are there any other specific morphs or maybe even localities that you're pushing towards or working towards?
Castagna.
It's Castagna.
Yes, I do have some Castagna. So we talked earlier about doing what you enjoy, doing what the market demands. And when I look at the market, I really see 3 different levels of buyers. I see the beginners, the first timers, or the novice collectors, right? They're going to want some what I call bread and butter snakes, aneries, maybe a normal snow, amel. They're going for something based on color more so than what are the genetics behind it. Then there's the mid-tier, the beginning breeders or the advanced collectors who are going to want something special like a honey blood red or an amel orchid or what else? Fire tessera mask. Something along those lines, or scaleless, or a classic palmetto. I don't sell many palmettos to first-time snake owners, but I do on occasion. Mm-hmm. And then there's the advanced breeders or the advanced collectors or the high-end collectors who want to have something new like the scaleless clown combination or the something very special in the locality, like Tony Dongara is working on the type 2 orange morph, which looks almost like a a sun-kissed extreme reverse Okatee without the red. It's all orange on white. You know, I'm working on microscalus. I want to see what can be done with microscalus and microscale in general to have the ability to display things on the scales, but still have the scaleless feel, or at least have something unique, small pearl-like scales instead of the normal scales. So I have projects in all three categories, and I really don't think I can shift away from that too much in order to stay competitive.
Yeah, you're bringing something to the table for everybody, bringing something into the market for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's definitely wise, because it's kind of, you know, in a way it's similar to sort of stocks. You know, you don't want to dump all your money into a single, you know, put all your eggs into one basket, and just kind of hope that it ends up being the right one. You know, if you have them kind of spread out a little bit, you know, you have the ability and the freedom to sort of adjust as necessary. And if you need to pull a little harder in one direction or the other, you know, you have the option to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. Hey, Alan, I kind of want to take a quick step to the side, because I got to ask a question that's been asked me multiple times. Is microscalus allelic with scalus? Is there a relationship between the two?
So here is my understanding of the way microscale, scalus, and microscalus work. A microscale animal bred to a scalus, all the babies will be microscalus.
Okay.
That is according to Y Forest in the UK. That's their findings. And that is my base understanding. Now, my microscalus male came from Don Soderberg, South Mountain Reptiles, and he stated that it was homozygous for both microscale and scalus, and that if I bred it with scalus, everything would be microscalus.
Okay.
That is my understanding based on words directly from Don. I don't know more than those two sets of statements that I just gave you.
Okay.
And I'm not sure.
Yeah, because if it works like ultramel, which is ultra and amel, that have a het and het, essentially you're getting one copy of one gene, one copy of the other gene. You're getting a visual representation. But then bred to an amel would get you half and half. So if it works like that, you would get half scalus, half microscalus, I guess. But everything's different. Every gene works differently, and it could be multiple genes stacked on top of multiple genes. So that'll be so you have not done that pairing yet?
No, my male is just growing up. He'll be ready in the spring. I'm probably going to pair him with one scaled animal and one scaleless, and just start down the path of understanding.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have a little bit of a stumbling block that if an animal is homozygous for microscale and homozygous for scalus at the same time, it's going to pass one gene of microscale and one of scalus, which should yield a microscalus animal. But I don't think that's the way it's going to work with the male that I have. So I've got to test it. I like to test things out. At worst case, I'll have some hets. That'll be about it. But I need to figure some things out on my own, and I can work with whatever comes out of it.
Yeah.
I'll be taking it down a future project lane.
Is microscale simple recessive?
Microscale is simple recessive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm especially dumb when it comes to the scaleless stuff and things like that. But
it's going to be really interesting, because certain morphs and certain pattern morphs, when it gets put to scaleless, really change up, right? Also, lavender isn't.
I was going to say, what does lavender do?
So then now, once you have a microscale or microscalus in a lavender, what happens? do you actually start seeing that, or does it continue with that same visual representation of not being able to see the lavender? You would think you would be able to see the lavender, but what does the micro scale do? So that's going to be really interesting.
Yep.
Working that stuff out, finding out what it does.
Absolutely. The scaled female that I'm targeting is an A-male orchid, that proven female. That's going to be the pairing, and I'm chasing exactly what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
What's the lavender going to look like down the road?
That's kind of awesome, because that's like the first thing that pops in my mind. I'm like, well, this deletes it. What does this do?
Right.
So, remind me again. Orchid is sun-kissed and lavender.
Lavender. Yes.
Right, A-male sun-kissed, lavender's three awesome genes. I mean, orchids are great. A-male orchids are great. So that's
anything with sun-kissed is going to be great.
Sun-kissed is so good. Sun-kissed is so good.
It is.
There's no
It
hashtag no
absolutely
bad
is.
suncast. Also, the charcoal pewters. I'm sorry. The charcoal palmettos you had mentioned earlier. Have you hatched any of those?
I did. I have two charcoals and 2 blizzards this year.
Awesome.
Unless you get very close to the eye, they look pitch black. If you get very close, you can see that the pupil and the iris are just a little bit different. But the variance from the leucistic style classic palmetto is very striking. Very striking. And the difference from an anery palmetto is also very striking. I really like it.
That's something I was wondering, because anery palmettos are beautiful, but I had not seen a charcoal palmetto yet. And I love charcoal, especially when it's paired to other things. I think charcoal really gets you the monochromatic look. Obviously, you make a blizzard from an A-male charcoal, right? You get a snow from an A-male anery. So that's pretty. I'll have to hit you up for some pictures of that, because that's got to be a pretty cool. Man, I almost got some palmettos at Daytona, but I was on my hashtag no corn snakes.
I feel like
No
that
more
was
corn snakes.
that was the show to do it, man.
I know. Oh, dude, yeah. That'll probably lead to the next question that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, Daytona corn prices were very surprising. Maybe it was people like me that just produced a bunch of corns this year, or maybe have a bunch of holdbacks, and just knew that I didn't want to add to any more of that without focusing on what I've already got. Maybe it was just not the year for corn snakes, especially because, man, the last couple of years, I feel like I couldn't have a corn snake that somebody didn't want. But Alan, what would be, what's your current opinion on the state of shows and selling at shows?
So let's start with Daytona. I was a little bit dismayed at some of the prices down there. Some of the retail prices. There was a table in the main room that was selling buy one get one free A-males for $25, and buy one get one free snows for $30. And this person had 70 plus snakes on the table.
Oh,
and
geez.
the tables were $300.
Yeah.
And I just, that's not a race to the bottom that I want to participate in. So I'm thinking that Daytona, if that is going to be the competition, and you're not a huge name that has, the reputation, if you have lines named after you, then you can do pretty well. But if you don't have lines of locality bred animals named after you, I don't see how it's going to be that great of a market until the race to the bottom stops.
Yeah.
And now in my market, I'm well known. I have a reputation. Like I said, we started doing it as a business during COVID. So that's 3.5 years now. But the differentiating factor with me in my market is I'm bringing the high-end genetics, I'm bringing the quality animals, and I stand behind them. And the adults from my quality babies all came from quality breeders. So I've been working at this generationally to produce the highest quality animals. And I have a bit of a reputation up here. I'm not saying that the market is great right now. The overall economy is down. Discretionary spending on reptiles is down, and it's across the board. But I'm paying for my tables, I'm paying for my gas, and I'm making enough to enjoy the time with my son and to continue doing this. It's not a waste of time and money. We're having a good time, and the money's not the same as it was last year, but that's okay too.
Do you think being in that second room, like if you had been in the main room, you think it would have been different?
I think last year it would have made a huge difference. I don't know that it would have made a difference this year.
Yeah, last year for sure, because last year was a bit of a fiasco with all that.
Yeah, last year was a lot different.
Seemed much smoother this year with that second room and stuff. But we had Kevin Barron on, who was vending just a couple tables up from you actually, and we were talking to him about it Thursday, and he was saying that him being in that sort of that back corner of that second room, he thinks that definitely had an effect on things. I mean, he sold some animals, but I think he was hoping to do better than he did. But that seems to be kind of the general consensus from just about everyone I talked to, was that it was good. It wasn't great. It was kind of what it was.
As a patron, I'm glad that I was able to go on Friday and see things without all the people, because my only day being Saturday, there are still things I didn't see, things I forgot, things I missed, tables that, my God, it's so many vendors, it's so many tables. I get a analysis paralysis, right? I just don't know which thing to go, which thing to look at, thing to buy, right? It's a lot. That's a big show, and Alan, you're right. You've got the big names, you've got the guys that are there, you've got the your Trumbauers and your Abbotts and stuff, and
the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, going with, I don't produce any really high end corns, but going with some AML Motleys and being like, hey, these are $85, and then, like you said, I saw some of those tables that were wholesaling corn snakes, right? Like what I consider wholesale, at least, are close enough. And I was pretty surprised by that.
Yeah.
But I will say, if I recall, you were one of like two tables that had anything Castagna related. So
yeah,
and I did go home.
You did go home with Castagna. Yeah, you had a great setup. And you even had some like newly hatched stuff. I think you had up on top, if I remember correctly. It was a beautiful setup, and I did see a lot of foot traffic. So kind of sucks if it wasn't. Yeah. I mean, what would you say? Like, but the overall in the end, sales based. We don't have to talk about numbers, but it was underwhelming.
It was, but it didn't. My goal with the trip, it was to go down, meet people like you, meet some other vendors and breeders, hang out, and if I sold enough to pay for the table and the trip, I'd be happy. And that's about where I was at the end of the show.
That checks the right boxes, right? Again,
yeah.
That same thing is you had fun. You got to bring your son with and enjoy it. And that's awesome. You had some like high pied blood reds, right?
I did. Yeah.
Those are badass, man.
Yeah, I'm working with the double homozygous, what people refer to as the Italian line, homozygous McDonald and SMR pieds. I'm also working with some Ultramel pieds from the McDonald line that are running very high whites. I also picked up earlier this year an old school blood red pied. What I would consider old school brick red, not the modern diffused mask looking pieds. I'm hoping to be able to find an old school blood red pied to pair with her. She's proven, and try to bring back that old school look.
I brought my female with me to Daytona to give to Justin, and she's not super high pied, right? She's got some very nice pied sides on her, but she's got that red. Oh man, she you look at her and you're like, that's a blood
Well,
red.
I looked at her and then I looked at that male that I paired this year to the
And when
Ghost
you're all,
Tick
that male's
girl, and I'm
hypo.
like, that male is without a doubt hypo.
Yeah, that is
like
that
looking
is,
at her and looking at him is night and day. I need to get a video of them together so you can see it because it's
she is
clear as day now.
Exactly what I want a blood red to look like. You know what I mean? That's for me. Growing up in this and seeing blood reds, they do get darker than that, but man, she's great, and that's why I'm glad because your male is from an older line, and he's pied. So we'll see. Hell, she might be het hypo. I know she's had charcoal. I've got all kinds of her babies all over the place. So.
Me too.
Yeah, I've still got babies left. I will go to war against anybody that doesn't like pewters. I love pewters,
dude. How can you not?
Pewters are great, man. They're like one of the oddest, and I think they're one of those morphs that you can take pictures of all day, and they just look better in person.
Mm-hmm.
And still, my goal, I've got all the ingredients to make a pied tessera pewter. So I've made all the babies. I've got doubles and triples and stuff. Hopefully, in the next 3 to 5 years, I can make a pied pewter tessera, which is I've never seen one for sale. So I'm sure they exist. I'm sure if I really dug and spent a lot of time, I could find a pied pewter tessera. But that's what I want. I want a pied pewter tessera. So, anyways, whatever that.
Well, it's funny too because I got that coral ghost female from you too to bring down, and I remember you saying like I can't get pictures of her, but
can't get a
pink.
picture of her.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, whatever. And then I tried to take pictures and like video and try and get some of that pink. I mean, it is very subtle.
Yeah.
But I'm like, son of a bitch. Like it's not there in pictures and video. It doesn't like, it's so frustrating because it's like, it is nice. It's definitely there.
The cool thing about it, her browns are really cool. Her browns are really saturated. It's a ghost red coat, red factor, ghost red factor, JMG old school coral ghost. And but it's the Aztecing on her, the pattern. And I didn't get any of that pattern the first time I bred her on any of the babies. I did prove her out het stripe. But she is supposed to be het sun kissed also.
Yeah.
So she's got all kinds of good genes in her.
Well, I really want to. That's exactly what I want to tie into the Castagna stuff. Is some coral ghosty red factory type stuff, just to see kind of how that plays with the the muting and fading of how Castagnas look.
Yeah.
And see how it interacts there, but
especially because you have a Motley Castagna, put it to her, you're going to get red factor and Motley stripes in your first clutch. Who knows what else is in that Castagna Motley?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, he doesn't have anything else going on, according to Mike. But
she's also had AML. Yeah, but we talked about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Jeans, corn snakes, man. You just never know what you're going to get.
Fun.
That was my top tier. I'm doing Okatee, reverse Okatee to an ultra male tessera. Let's go. Right? Just happens to be head anery. We're all right. She's not head anery. Turns out head anery, and I got like very, very few of what I was trying to make. So because I had a lot of snows. So now I had snows and snow tesseras, and of course I like knocked the odds out of the park. Right? So it's like half snows. I'm like, great. This is exactly not what I wanted, but that's okay. Those things happen.
What are your feelings on tessera and mask?
Is that for me?
Yes, sir.
Anybody? Yeah.
Let's start with mask. Mask can be pretty confusing to the general public, and even some breeders don't even disclose or don't even look for mask. They just bypass it. I'm a huge fan of Super Mask. I produced this year some Super Mask sun-kissed honeys, and they look pretty special. That combination, the Super Mask, I like it. I don't have them on the table very long when I put them out, so I'm assuming that the market, at least in my market, likes them. Mask, I typically I will disclose it and list it so people know what they're getting, and then give them an education as far as the split down the belly scales and the change in the head pattern. I do have one line, however, that the mask just blew me away the first time I saw it. It is from my Fire Het Caramel male to my Ultramel New School Blood Red Tessera Het Caramel female. These masks, with the contrast of head patterns and colors, they look like Spartan helmets. They look like Scream masks.
Oh, it's awesome.
It was just phenomenal. My first clutch from that pairing was 2 years ago. It hatched out while I was on vacation. One of my friends was watching. He's like, hey, these are hatching. I was fully convinced I was coming home. I was going to wholesale the clutch just because I had gobs of babies. And I took one look at them and I said, these aren't going anywhere. And I held back quite a few. And Alex got a couple over time. A friend of mine, Matt Davis from North Country Kings and Corns. A couple other guys got some from that pairing. And I think done well, mask can be spectacular.
Well, we've talked about it a little bit, and I know it's like, you know, Chris and I in previous episodes, and it's just tough because there's so much variation in terms of expression. Like, I know Chris has sent me some stuff where he's like, I think it's mask. Like, if you look at it and you're looking for it, you could say that it's there. If you're not and you're not noticing it, then maybe it's not. So it's one of those things where I know, just talking in the, you know, in the CornStars group chat, there's some guys that are like, I hate it because, say in the same vein as Tessera, where it's like once it's there, you know, it kind of hijacks a lot of stuff.
Tessera, you always know when it has it, but mask can be very hard to tell, especially with the the other thing one of the things that gets me about mask, and this is I've talked with people about this. It's not always just head diffusing. You can have a perfectly stock standard head sometimes with some belly diffusing, right, and some side diffusing even, and sometimes you'll get a super mask that looks like a blood red or a diffused. Yeah, and it's, you know, these things. Yep. It's a spectrum almost. I sent Alan. I think you saw some of the caramel stuff that I sent to Alex. There was a shatter caramel diffused mask in there, and like it looked spectacular. That was
absolutely.
That was a really special thing. I'm so glad I set up like that whole clutch except for two snakes, because I kept two mask honeys, and they're like so masked they look diffused. At first I thought they were diffused, but then I started noticing a couple of belly checkers as I kind of looked closer. But I said that whole clutch to him. I was like, I'm just excited for somebody to have these. And that was one of those clutches that like I was either keeping everything or I was giving everything to one person. It was a fun clutch, so I get to do that again next year.
Absolutely beautiful. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, next year I'll be doing it different. I have a mask Tessera honey from the same parents as my original male. So I have a new male I'm going to put in there. So I'll do that same female to a honey Tessera mask, and it's all the same genes. So I'll compound it one more, and I'll throw Tessera in, and we'll see what poops out. That female's so badass. So
nice. Nice.
Yeah, always super exciting. So you're talking about vending shows. You keep saying your demographic, your area. How many shows are you vending a year?
I'm doing probably 25 to 30 shows a year.
Wow.
This is it's father-son time for me. So, we go out and we do shows. We do quite a few. For me, the payoff is time with family at the same time that I get to go out and educate people about not just corn snakes, but snakes. I get to see people that I'm happy to call friends now that I've met through the reptile world. Patrick from Susie Q Scaleless, JT from Silent Hill, Adrian from Adrian's Exotics, Tony Dungar you've had on here. Alex I met. Alex was, I think he bought his first snake from me. And I met him two and a half years ago or so. We're good friends now. It it has a lot of non-monetary benefits. Just going out and doing the shows, preparing the night before with my son, labeling things, being there and vending at the shows. He enjoys it. I enjoy it. It's tough. He's 18 years old. A lot of 18-year-olds are, see you later, Dad.
Yeah.
Don't call me. I'll call you when I need money. But, he's fully involved and definitely loves spending time with me as well. So,
I mean, that's something that a lot of people don't, they can't say. A very solid majority of people that are into this, they had parents that borderline tolerated it but weren't really in it, and to me, like, having a parent that was in it was like, I'm really lucky in the fact that my dad was into it and still is to a degree, but that's a pretty rare thing, and especially to be doing it on a regular basis together is also, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Damn, any kind of a thing you can share with your son. I'm still close with my dad. He's 75 now, and any time we can get together to do I think our favorite thing to do now is sit around, drink beer, and make fun of each other. But yeah, that's just a good thing. Did your son? I gotta ask the Scouts question. Did he make it to Eagle Scout?
He did.
That's awesome.
He earned his Eagle Scout earlier this year.
Wonderful.
He coordinated volunteers to work over 240 hours in a 7-hour day.
Wow. Yeah, I'm an Eagle Scout, and going through Scouts and doing my Eagle Scout project and the leadership training that was involved in that, still to this day, at almost 40 years old, is very prominent in my life. I think that's a great thing, and any young man that makes it through that is smart kid. You got to be a smart kid. So that's good.
I never made it past Weeblo.
A lot of people don't. And that's, it also, that, there's another thing about Scouts people don't understand. It takes a lot of dedication from your family. There's a lot of things they need to get you to, and some families, and I know this, the amount of work I do, the amount of work my wife does, extracurricular stuff is tough.
Very tough.
It takes a lot of dedication from your family. You don't get there on your own. It takes a village to make it happen, and a good troop, a good Scout troop.
Absolutely.
So, do you do? It's kind of jumping into the next question. Do you do a lot of online sales?
I do. I'm currently using Morph Market. I think I have 70 animals up or so right now.
Wow, nice.
Try to keep them fresh. Try to keep them rotating. It's been a good forum for me this year. Last year I was on the free membership level and sold a few here and there. But once again, I look at the big picture with everything. I have some direct sales. I've done okay with Morph Market direct sales, but I've also had many people find me locally by finding me on Morph Market. So these are people who aren't going to reptile shows. They're just online browsing. And then they're like, hey, you're just up the road from me. Can I come over? And that twice this week, I had customers and sales because they found me on Morph Market. So there's the directly tangible, and then there's the indirect sales that have come out from my online presence.
That's really cool. As Morph Market has evolved and changed, do you think it's kind of headed in a good direction? You think it's doing the right thing?
Change is always difficult for people. And
It is.
I think we're in a tumultuous time with Morph Market. Some people like to change, some people don't. I think once it stabilizes, I think we're undergoing a lot of changes in a very short period of time. I think once it stabilizes, it'll be better for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I work in the IT realm, so I understand the changes and adapting to rapid changes, and I've been able to navigate my way through. I will be very honest, some of the changes have been very disruptive for me, but then you learn how to either work around them or work with them, and improvise, adapt, and overcome is one of the tenets of my personality. So it has definitely been a challenge. Change is difficult for a lot of people, and I think the sooner we can get the platform stable and consistent again, the better for everyone it'll be.
I agree. As changes are made, sometimes it's difficult when it's small changes at a time, or one big change, two small changes. Here comes.
Well, I think it's been a bunch of small changes all at once. Has kind of been the biggest. It's
and
sort
that's
of
the other
bottlenecked.
thing.
Yeah.
I think the platform and the way that it works as a whole is really good for not only new hobbyists but tenured hobbyists. I think we see it's there's a few categories that need to be fixed, including Pitchiophis, which I've already sent my letters and descriptions as to why. But there's little things that need to be fixed here and there. But getting a little bit of the noise out of it, it's the right type of platform. It is the right. It's got the bones and a lot of the meat there for it to be the thing. I come from kingsnake.com for a lot of years. I bought a lot of animals on kingsnake.com, even from when I was 18 years old. And comparing now, loved it. I loved the way the forums worked. That was a cornerstone of my life. But the way that the app and the ease of messaging and stuff like that, there's a lot of good things in there. So I think yeah. I think you're right. A lot of changes and just kind of letting that stabilize.
Yeah, I've been really. I need to get back on there and get some stuff up, but it's just been. I'm really hesitant. It's just at this point it's borderline painful, and it's mostly just dealing with the lack of follow through on a lot of people's part. I have no issues talking to people and messages and stuff. Answering questions, that's fine. Like, I don't have any issues with it. But when you know that like 9 times out of 10, they're either just gonna outright disappear or just not come through, it's like, what am I doing?
I have had 2 people message me to hold a $75 snake, which I told them no. They could pay for it in full, and I would hold it until they wanted me to ship. That is not a problem. But I'm not, can I put $5 down now and pay you $8 a week for the next 72 years? That ain't me. And also, I posted some northern pines. I got 2 beautiful northern pines ready to go. And oh my gosh, the messages I got on these animals, just 10, 12 people messaging me like, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What are these? And it's like,
yeah. See, and I just like, I'm not looking forward to that,
It's in order to find northern pines on Morph Market, you have to go to other colubrids. You have to click on pine snakes. You have to go to northern pine snakes to find my ads, right? Like, it's not like the first thing that pops up. I guess if you hit other colubrids, it would pop up on the list. And it's like, I don't necessarily, and then like, I'm very descriptive. I'm one of those like assholes that post like a massive description as to what it is, why it is, where the line came from. And people still ask me like the most simple questions, like, what is this? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't, straight up $55, I'll ship it to you though. No questions asked. Right. Like, you can just have it. I don't know. Yes, the 40 gallon is perfect. You need 120 gallon for the snake. That's it. I'm just saying yes to everything now. Hey, Alan, we've derived. We started talking a little bit more about the financials and the selling on snakes. Kind of love asking everybody this question. What's your keeping style? Your feeding regimen? What are the bones of your collection look like?
Juveniles and hatchlings is feeding weekly. Everything's on frozen thawed before it even thinks about leaving this room. Subadults are on the 7 to 10 day. And then my adults, depends on what time of year it is. Right now, my females get to eat every week, and the males get to eat about every 2 weeks. And that'll stop right around the end of October. I'll flush the systems and get them ready for brumation. Once they come out of brumation, I go small meal, regular size meal, and then the females will start double feed until they lay. And then we'll start that same process: small meal, single meal, double meal if I'm going to double clutch them. I have some that no matter what I do, they're going to double clutch, and I know which ones they are, so they get the double feed again. And then I have one that is extremely stubborn and triple clutches, but she does not get the double feed. I just let her lay the slugs, and they go straight into my king snakes. She hasn't had any problems pushing them out, so I just let her lay slugs the third time. But that's the overall regimen of feeding.
Clear and concise. As far as keeping, do you do any naturalistic or anything, or you do pretty stock standard?
Because I switched this into a business about 3.5 years ago, I'm on rack systems. When I move to the next house in the spring, I'll be a combination of racks and cages. Right now I'm on sea serpents racks. I actually have co-designed a hatchling rack with sea serpents, and that's co-branded. It's based on a airtight 2-liter Sistema lunchbox, and what I'd put in that is hatchlings that absolutely cannot escape. Murphy's Law says your nicest one is the one that escapes from, the escape-proof hatchling rack. And I had that happen last year, and it put me in a really bad mood for a while.
Oh yeah.
So I worked on this design, and these are airtight lunch boxes with 3 1/8-inch holes on every side. And I've yet to find a corn snake that's going to get out of the 1/8 of an inch drill hole. So, yeah, that's for here. It's a functional working breeding room. In the new home, I hope to have several display cages that I can rotate some of my nicer animals in and out of. I can use them for enrichment. Right now, I use my V70 rack for enrichment. I'll throw a couple girls and a couple boys in the different bins and just let them get a little bit of exercise for an hour or two so they don't get too stressed out. And then I'll put them back in their home, and they'll go and rest. And I just, in the new place, I definitely am looking forward to having a little bit more room and having a few animals on display, because I do have a couple nice ones here.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's so. With brumation, what kind of temps you hit?
My target is 55, which is right in the mid range. That way, if I get a 5-degree spike either way, or even a 10-degree spike either way, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's tough in Maryland because we often will have a temp spike in November. Last year we had a day that hit 90, and we had a couple days at 85 around that. And I don't have a basement, so I can't use just ground temperature. I had them on the ground in the back of my garage, and all of a sudden it's 80 degrees on the ground back there, and they're awake and crawling around. It messed up my brumation a bit, but my target temp is 55.
It's kind of perfect numbers. Yeah.
Been trying to get a drink cooler with an electronic thermostat that I can then just put the animals in bins in the drink cooler and maintain. Doesn't matter if it's 90 outside or not.
Yeah, that's with our ridiculous temperatures here in South Texas, we have to create hibernaculums, right? Like we have to make a room or an area that gets down to that temperature. It doesn't. It don't work outside. But so yeah, that's I've seen a lot of people use wine coolers because a lot of wine coolers go from 45 to 65. That's the temperatures they're already set at. So you would just set it at 55 and leave it. Dude, wine coolers are expensive though. I know that
Facebook Marketplace.
you need a lot of them for the amount of snakes you got. They're not big and they're just pricey. My first couple years brew mating, that's actually what I used. I just didn't have a lot of snakes doing it, so I just plopped them in. It probably the best brumation I've ever had at my house. Now a lot of my stuff leaves my house to brumate, but my closet, a good old closet with a portable AC unit that gets down to 60 and the room stays about 50. So it's got to do something. So Alan, how many pairs do you normally shoot for? You said you've been doing this pretty heavily for 3 years. Is there a target number you want to do and not go over, or is it just as many as will go?
I'm targeting 20 to 25 pairs next year. And then by the time I'm done with double clutches, I'll be at 30 to 35. And that's upper limits. This year, unfortunately, am finishing my numbers with clutch 78.
Whoa.
And I had new girls decide that not only were they going to be first-time moms, but they were also going to double clutch. And little bit much this year. Definitely want to cut those numbers down.
That's a lot of baby snakes, man. That is a lot of baby snakes.
That was too many baby snakes this year, but that's okay. I most of the project ones, most of the ones that I wanted to do hit. I had a couple that were a little disappointing, and then I had a couple females that I had purchased come in and 2 weeks later drop eggs unexpectedly. So
wow.
My numbers were off this year, but I'm not going to turn down four adult females proven from the indirectly from the Walter Smith collection.
Yeah.
And then end up with 60 babies from them with virtually no work. So
yeah, I don't blame you. So what was the final count for this season as far as babies, or did you not count?
I have not counted. I have 150 left in the racks.
That's after 78 clutches. That's not bad.
Thankfully, some of the clutches were small, and my biggest clutch was 70 or 27. Smallest clutch that had eggs survive was probably 2. So it was definitely a lot of variance, a lot of cool stuff produced, but way too many. My incubator's been going since January. My first clutch hatched in January this year.
Oh.
And I produced a scaleless palmetto in February out of one of my clutches.
Wow. Does that I don't mean to sound cross asking this. Does that animal sell? Is that do those sell, right? Like scaleless palmettos. I've seen a couple, but I always wonder, they should have a high price tag. Do they sell well? Is that
they have sold well. I held on to mine. Last year, everyone that went to Daytona, with the exception of one, sold at Daytona at asking price. And the one that did not sell was on Morph Market for about a month or two at $4,500, and then it sold at $4,500.
Wow.
There you go. That's awesome, man. That's there's this year's definitely been tougher. I know for a fact this year's been tougher on everybody for corn snake sales. That's a reflection of the economy. That's a reflection of the time that people were spending during COVID. looking more time at their phones, spending more time online, spending more time looking for things to do. I don't think a lot of people think that during COVID, people were looking for companion animals. I think that did happen, but I don't think that is why sales were so much better. I think people weren't spending as much money, right? People had more
for sure.
more extra money for their personal hobbies because they weren't going out to eat as much. They weren't going to the movies. They weren't going to the bars. They weren't going on vacations.
Checks.
Stimulus checks were happening.
Yep.
And so I know that as in my personal opinion, as the economy is going to wax and wane, right? Like it's going to ebb and flow, and as it readjusts, as it gets better, snake sales, reptile sales will get better. Things will go back to where they need to be at a good price. But it's when the economy's kind of in this kind of rough patch, you start seeing people with $25 buy one get one free snakes and stuff, and it's because they're just trying to move everything. You also probably had a lot of people that saw the economy doing so well in the reptile business that decided to produce more and more and more and more, or at that time got into it, right? Like, I'm going to buy a couple adults in 2020 because I know that these things are selling. And then in 2023, I'm selling them for $5 a piece, right? Because I didn't actually know what I was getting into. I didn't do any time. I didn't spend any time. Whereas somebody like you, building a collection over time, knowing what you're working with, planning your demographic, hitting the shows, putting in the time, you understand where you can sell, what you can possibly wholesale if necessary, and what are going to be your hot ticket items. So there's just a lot of that happening, I think, right now.
I agree.
So I think though, if it given the prices that I saw at Daytona, like if there was someone who was looking to get into certain projects or get a nicer pair of animals, like now was probably the best time to do it, because it's like some of the stuff that I saw was it was outrageous how low it was in terms of, like, I think I saw shatters for like $150.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn.
Yeah.
And I think if you would have gone Sunday afternoon and stopped by a lot of tables and offered certain amounts of money for stuff, I think you could have walked away with some pretty nice stuff at a discount.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a little run-in on the prowl for leopard geckos for my daughter. There was a specific morph she wanted. I don't want to say it because the gentleman may be a listener. And I found a guy that had exactly what she was looking for. I only found one or two at the show. And one was $200, which was a good price for animal. I actually didn't buy it just because I didn't necessarily like the guy's attitude. And I'm one of those people. If I don't like who's selling the animal, I'm not going to buy it. You're not getting my money. I worked hard for this money. You're not going to get it. The other guy was one of the coolest guys I've ever chatted with, and had the exact same combination, and wanted $1,200 for it. And I could not figure out why one was this and one was this. And I even asked him. I was like, "Hey man, you want to come off this price? I'll meet you in the middle, right around here." And it was kind of just like no, this is what I'm selling for. Kind of respect that though, right? Like, he knew what he had, he knew what he wanted. I kept his card. I may still end up getting one of these from him. But yeah, I was just really surprised that there was a lot of that at Daytona. There's a lot of people just trying to get rid of stuff. The animal should have been about $600-700. So seeing it for a really cheap price, I was kind of like red flag. And then seeing it kind of for a high price, kind of retrospectively looking at it, maybe having it in my hands, I could have spent that money and been pretty happy with it. Hindsight's 2020. It is what it is. But Alan, if we went back, we looked at this season, handful of standouts. Is there any maybe a specific clutch, maybe a specific animal, 4 or 5 that you're like, this was my first time producing this, anything like that?
Yeah, I would say I've been working toward the charcoal palmettos and the blizzard palmettos for several years. That's one of my projects. So those are definitely high on the list of what I'm excited about. I produced some. I think I mentioned the super mask, sun-kissed honey, or super mask honeys. Those are definitely a standout. My AML orchids, last year on Morph Market, you couldn't buy an orchid. There were only a handful available nationwide. I picked up a couple from Joe Peck. I know that JT picked one up but we were both looking, and we were both trying to help one another look for orchids. So the fact that I was able to produce some orchids this year, some amel orchids, next year I should have some hypo orchids. I did produce a couple caramel orchids this year. That's been fun. It's realizing the fruits of your efforts, and the multi-generational breeding, that creating the recipes for what you want down the road and taking each step toward it. That for me is very rewarding.
Absolutely. And the orchid stuff is just killer.
It is. Yeah, without a doubt. When it comes to clutches like that, or just in general, I mean, do you have a particular process as far as picking holdbacks? Or like a specific number you aim for with holdbacks, or is it kind of just a free for all, like whatever stands out,
Typically it's whatever stands out. But some of my projects are the longer term projects. I mentioned earlier, next year I should be producing butter palmettos, lavender palmettos. That's a multi-year project. My scaleless palmetto is unrelated as much as you can be unrelated to any palmetto, because they all came from one. But I didn't have the genes in my collection combined. I bred a scaleless male to my female palmetto, kind of burnt the season for both of them.
Yeah.
And I held back 2.4 of those and eventually bred them back together and came up with my scaleless palmetto. I do have another project that I'm working on, and Justin, this may ring through to you at least a little bit. Scaleless mandarins. I embarked down that path this year. That's not my end goal project, but I held back 2.5 of those. And I actually have visual mandarins and visual castanhas in that 2.5. So nice. I discovered in Patrick Smigaki's line from Suzy Q, I discovered castagna running through it. He didn't even know. It was just a chance pairing that I did going toward my project. And I came up with mandarins and castagnas, 100% het scaleless. So
that's gonna be cool.
I guess my holdback strategy for my special projects is always multiples. I don't want to lose, 2 or 3 years of working toward that project. I'd rather just have 1 or 2 more mouths to feed.
Right.
A secondary strategy that I employ is I genetically bank. So if I hold back 2.5, maybe I'm going to grab 3.6 and I'm going to send 1.2 to one of my friends and 1.2 to another one. These are for my important projects. Once again, I don't want to lose 2 to 3 years of time. And midwinter for us, if we lose power for 5 to 7 days and I can't get out because we got 4 feet of snow, I may lose my animals.
Yeah.
Same thing with Texas. Midsummer, you lose power for 5 to 7 days, and the gridlock or no gas available, and you can't get your animals somewhere cool. You could lose your collection. So I send my important projects get sent offsite to a different location.
I cannot believe you just exact same mentality. Every special project I have, I send animals to friends, because if I lose it in my collection, I know where those genetics still exist. It's and you're damn right. If I've lost my AC in the middle of summer, I've had my room hit 90 degrees. I've got a massive generator and 2 portable AC units that I can plug into that generator. It happened while I was on vacation, right? Oof. I came home to no AC. Didn't even know it. Same thing happened. I went on vacation while brewmating, and my portable AC that goes in the closet has a hose that goes outside to push out the heat. That hose popped off and put my room to 90 something degrees, which was kind of funny because the the air conditioned closet stayed cold. But I lost a handful of geckos because of that, and I think 1 or 2 snakes. So it's got to have a fallback when you're working on this stuff. That's you couldn't be more correct in that in the way of doing that.
The normal het scaleless have that look to them. Do the castagnas that are het scaleless, do they look? They have like a similar sort of appearance. If that makes any sense.
I don't notice that they look that much different from the Castagna non-het scaleless.
No, I'm thinking of palmettos. I'm sorry, not scaleless.
Yeah, palmettos have a visual head.
Yeah. They just look
Yeah,
like
the
an
markers on
mandarin, as they should.
Yep. I don't know of any markers that are showing through on either the Mandarin het scaleless or the Castagna het scaleless that I've held back. I can't think of any. There's no missing scales on the head. The head shape is the typical corn snake, whereas some of the het scaleless, you can see the slight difference kind of toward the scaleless look, but I don't see that.
Do you ever kind of notice with the het scaleless stuff, the emery eye influence, that maybe heavier body or just deeper saturation in the melanin?
Really not.
So bred out, I guess, at this point.
I think so. I see the natural variance in my non-scaleless clutches. I see some lighter animals, some darker animals. I see some bigger animals, some smaller animals. I'm really not noticing a difference between anything that I have that's het scaleless versus the non-het scaleless.
Okay, interesting. The do you happen to work with any terrazzo?
I do not. I'm partnering with Alex from Keystone on a boot keys project.
Okay.
I picked up the aberrant pattern. I've got 1-in-1 aberrant pattern boot key and then a normal female boot key, and he picked up the terrazzo. That's the only known gene in the boot keys locality is the terrazzo. So we're going to shoot for some aberrant pattern terrazzos, and we'll be working with terrazzo boot key localities.
Awesome. I've really drawn towards terrazzo. I did not see any terrazzo at
I saw
Daytona.
one het.
Yeah, I think there was a couple tables that had hets, but no visual terrazzos. So that's kind of, if anybody listening to this is working with terrazzo, let me know, because I would like to get some visual terrazzos. I think I want to get some terrazzo charcoals, right? Like, I like charcoal. Maybe let's see. Let's mix that up. Let me give it a little monochromatic terrazzo. I think that'd be pretty neato. But it's like one of those morphs that's just like impossible to find. It's just out there. I'm glad y'all got a hold of some of the stuff in that realm. One thing we wanted to ask is, as shifts happen, outside of financials, outside of prices, have you found popularity in any morphs now that were not popular, or were there any things that were strikingly popular that you see people just don't have as much interest in now with as many shows as you do?
Wow. I think the normal palmettos are losing popularity. I think the scaleless is sliding down a little bit from where it was a couple years ago. I see things like lavender and orchid really kind of picking up, the interest picking up. Locality seems to be picking up, at least in my market. I was able to put some of my Abbott line locality and my Sherman line locality items or animals up on the table this year, and they did quite well. I made, for the first time this year, sun-kissed red zeppelins, which are Sherman line Okatee Hunt Club amels with sun-kissed on top of those, and I couldn't keep them on the table.
Phoenix corns. I think he calls them Phoenix corns, right?
I've heard Phoenix described as hypo sun-kissed red zeppelins, and also just the sun-kissed red zeppelin. So I haven't used that term because I don't know that I don't want to be the one to define it definitively. But those are the three genes that have been discovered in the Okatee Hunt Club lines: is the sun-kissed, the hypo, and the amel. So I don't want to be the one to define that, but the locality, I see a lot more interest in locality. The boot keys, some of the various island localities seem to be gaining popularity, at least in my market. I have people asking for it and really appreciating them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a little section of locality corns, and I know obviously Justin has his Ladies Island stuff, so we're both. I'm excited about it, but I'm also excited that we're putting morphs to those to get different phenotypes in the end. Though it may be a planned and like pretty clear phenotype that you're going to get, you're still going to get different looks.
Absolutely.
At what point did you get into Castagna, and why is it your favorite?
I had an idea this question might come around. I really love the look of the mandarins. It's a throwback to my childhood, actually. When the ice cream man came around, it was time for that orange cream push pop.
Mm-hmm.
And the mandarins just have that nice creamy orange color. And that really drew me to the mandarin. And then as I got beyond the hobby level and doing it as a business, I started to look at just the color combinations and the different, like the hypocastanias, and just playing with the color. And that's, once again, that's what's fun for me, is trying something out. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I know I've learned and I understand from it. It's a fun gene to work with. It's different from many of the other genes, and I have some ideas of putting maybe a black Okatee into a Castagna, and really trying to accentuate some of the dark colors, bring out the melanin more, just to see what it looks like. I have seen a Mandarin Okatee from Lee Abbott, and it was spectacular.
They're beautiful.
Fascinating. Very beautiful. That's the fun part about being a corn snake breeder. Once the animals eat, they typically stay on food. You can get them up to breeding size in 3-4 years. 95% of the animals you'll have up to that size. And the odds are fairly good of knowing what you're going to get. And the odds are even better that you'll get a surprise or two out of the clutch where you thought you knew everything that you were going to get.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of it. The creating, the mad scientist part. Hey, I'm going to try this. Okay, great. Do you like it? Oh, no. Or that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Right?
Absolutely. Mixing, matching. You're doing a little alchemy. You're just trying to see what you're going to be able to create. It's so much fun.
I think that's the chondro side of me is what likes that taking polar opposites and putting things together to see what comes out the other side, kind of thing. Not knowing is exciting. I mean, it's when you have a clutch where you were expecting it to zig when it's zagged. That you don't know exactly what's going on. That does get a little frustrating. But in terms of like the Ladies Island stuff, tying that into morphs and not knowing what's going to happen, 2-3 generations in, like that is really exciting. I all the Castagna stuff that I've got, the plans that I have, like knowing it's going to take a long time to really have any of it come to fruition. But again, not knowing exactly how it's going to operate with other things in the mix is what excites me about that the most. And that little male I got from you at Daytona, man, like that's going to be a really good looking animal. Like I'd pull that thing out and look at it. We have this one lamp in my house where like the lighting is perfect. It's not too warm. It's not too cool. Like that makes the colors just look exactly how they should. And like I pull that thing out and I'm just blown away. I was playing with some of the ones I got from Westmoreland the other night too. And I was like, God, these things there's even with those 5 animals that I got from him, the variation in those, because they're all clutch mates, if I'm not mistaken. Like I have some that have like way more saturation. I have some that look almost like ghosts. Just seeing like even on that level, plugging things in, and that Mandarin that I got from you is about to shed, and that animal's every time that thing sheds, it just gets better and better and better.
Yep.
Is anybody doing sun-kissed mandarins? I don't think I've seen one.
I've not seen one yet.
I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure it does too.
Yeah, it's not to think that it hasn't been made. I've just never seen it. I wonder. It's got to be good, right? It's got.
I don't see how it could be bad.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see what Buff does in that mix. Not necessarily with Sunkiss, but with Castagna.
Just Buff on Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
Like look at the stuff Tony D's doing to get one of those Type 2 Buff AMLs and put that into Castagna, and then it takes a couple generations. It's gonna take 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, but what comes out of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those morphs, man, that just like kind of like Terrazzo, I feel like it just got passed by fairly quickly. It wasn't given really enough time to really see its full potential. And I think it's just due to that being recessive and taking longer to actually see the results of it. That's why all the incomplete dominant stuff I think is so much more attractive, is because you get those results right away.
Also, it's very subtle, and hatchlings are kind of. You put a whole bunch of hatchling Castagnas on your table, they're not always going to be the first thing somebody's going to grab, because they're not that striking. Kind of like caramel, right? Like caramels, of course, you can show somebody an adult and be like, "Bam, it's a yellow snake," right? But caramel hatchlings are kind of not always that striking. They're kind of not nearly as beautiful. You got to go through that ontogenic change and see what you get. Castagna's very much that, very very much that.
Yep.
But even then, though, I mean, even after like first or second sheds with those, like that color starts to pop and that blushing comes in, and it's just like it's a completely different animal, overnight. And I don't know. I mean, I feel bad because I talk about it so much, but at the same time, like I freaking love that morph, and like just is, it's just one of those things where it's like it just doesn't get old to me. Like I love looking at it. Same with honey. Anything. I'm still all about honey. But man, like I look at those Castagnas that I have, like the group I have, and it's just like every single one I love, for a different reason. Just can't get enough.
Well, is there anything maybe next year, the year after, that you're just really excited to produce for the first time, Alan?
So I mentioned earlier the scaleless clown.
So wait, what is clown? I've not heard that terminology.
So it's been claimed that it's zigzag or maybe Aztec or Zagtec on top of scaleless, but it's just a really cool looking scaleless. I'm actually working with Patrick. We're trying to trace and prove out, is it the same as zigzag? Is it allelic to zigzag? Is it all related to zigzag?
Oh, that's actually really cool looking.
Yeah, which one do you have up? Do you have the AML?
Yeah.
So that is Harley. That is one of the first ones that Patrick produced. And they are really distinct and really cool. And there's a great variance in patterns and looks to them. Some of them look like they have a stripe down the side with some waves on the stripe. Others look like he has one named Gaboon. It looked like a Gaboon Viper with the diamond pattern when it was first born.
Wow.
They're just a very striking animal. And it's hard to say what it really is because when you remove the scales, it's not the pattern. The pattern doesn't transfer underneath the way it does on the scales. I have a scaleless that I swear it's got 5 different patterns on it. It looks like Tessera, looks like Motley, it looks like Mask, but it's probably none of those. So we are just taking it nice and slow. We have determined it appears to be recessive. All of the numbers are roughly 50% when visual to het is bred. And I'm just excited, and I have been excited this year, and the female reabsorbed twice.
Dang.
And I was excited last year, and the female reabsorbed twice. So by now I have a few more girls coming up, and hopefully next year I will produce my first scaleless clown animals.
Does that morph? Excuse me. Does that morph translate over to scaled animals, or has that not yet been bred back into scaled animals yet? Or is it one of those things that kind of maybe like pied is only visible when another recessive is already visual?
We're still learning. According to Patrick, it doesn't show up in the scaled animals, or maybe it's just a very small pattern aberration. We don't have a large number of animals. He's just recalling kind of the offspring from the parents that he's had, and he has a scaled het clown adult or two, and it's just really hard to tell. They don't look like there's markers, but we're just taking things slow and trying to figure out what exactly is it. And to me, it's interesting, and I'm learning, but I love the look of them.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
That's really something that I'm looking for next year. I did mention earlier the blood red pieds, both from the Italian line, and the ultramel pied, blood red pieds from the McDonald line. And then, of course, my learning journey with my microscalus. Those are probably the top 3 that I'm looking forward to for next year.
That's awesome. I constantly teeter on this value of do I want to scale this? Do I not want to scale this? Do I maybe want scale this? Do I not? And it's because I'm obsessed with scaleless aneries. I think anery scaleless just is such a damn good looking animal.
I'm fully expecting to hatch one out, not even on purpose. Like I'm fully with the amount of like hets and stuff floating around out there. Like I would not be surprised if one day I had stuff hatch and one popped out.
At some point, that's going to happen to somebody, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Alan, that's one question we kind of ask everybody, and I feel like it's been answered throughout the show multiple times. What are your thoughts on scaleless and palmetto?
What about we never touched on Tessera though?
Oh yeah, I do have a palmetto specific question, but
we'll alternate the scaleless and palmetto thing.
Yeah, we'll hit some Tessera here in a second. But on the palmetto, you're producing a lot of palmettos. You're producing palmetto scaleless. You know, we know that bug eye is a deleterious thing that happens in that gene compound. It's the leucistic. It's the way the eye scales are formed. It's when they're formed in the egg. do you see a certain percentage of bug eye, or do you find that outcrossing makes a lot of that go away?
So here's what I've seen. I spoke earlier about starting with the top of the line animals, and I hand selected with the help of John from Travis Whistler Reptiles. I picked out parents that had already been outcrossed and brought back in. I still do produce bug-eyed. The severity of the bug-eye that I'm producing now is very low, and my numbers are very low. I produced probably 35 to 40 palmettos this year. I had 3 that had a level of bug eye that I would say is more than 5%. That's kind of the percentage that I use to determine if it's bug eye or if it's just a natural variance within the animals, because a 5% difference in eyes, I've seen that outside of the palmettos. I have spoken with a lot of people, a lot of different palmetto breeders. It appears to happen more in males, and it appears to happen more in amels. So an amel male palmetto with perfect eyes is almost a unicorn. Not quite a unicorn, but it is a rarity. So I make special note of that. Now, a lot of people that I know will feed off their bug eyes to king snakes or whatever. I actually don't, unless it's beyond like the 25% threshold. I list them as pet quality. I cut the price in half, which is a model that I took from Travis Whistler, and then I give a full education to whoever's buying it. So it's clearly labeled, and I put it out there. And I'll tell you what, I've never brought one home from a show. People love the little googly eyes. These are maybe the first time buyers, maybe the novice collectors that want a palmetto, and they just think the little cartoon eyes are cute, so they can get a palmetto without paying palmetto prices, and go from there. I think my percentages are lower due to the amount of outcrossing that I've done. I have palmettos now in my collection from 5 different lines, and I've outcrossed all 5, and I've started to bring them back together. And that's kind of my commitment to making sure that I have the highest quality genetics and genetically sound animals that I can produce. As soon as I get my project animal, it's time to outcross. I start that immediately.
That's the best possible answer I could have ever heard. That's awesome, man. Right? Like, that's exactly, I mean, so many people just, that's not the answer they would have given. And that's great. So do you ever do palmetto to palmetto, but making sure it's different lines?
I do. I've got the flexibility now because I've been doing the palmettos. I've been doing this as a business for 3.5 years, but I've had palmettos for close to 6 now.
Nice.
And absolutely, I have a male classic palmetto who is het blizzard anery, and he's a superstar. He's got all the genes. I have another completely, as far as you can be, unrelated to the original palmetto, with the exact same genes that I'm raising up, completely different bloodline, and he's going to take over some of my palmetto to palmetto breedings, and I will then be able to breed from those different lines. I'll be able to bring them back together somewhere down the line.
Okay.
And just keep spreading that genetic material out, so the pool gets bigger and bigger. Every year I make hets, and I hold back some just so I can breed with a different male, unrelated male, or unrelated female down the road.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah, that's great. So on the other one, we talked about Tessera. Do you like Tessera? Do you not like Tessera? Do you questioning it, or where do you sit with Tessera?
So I started not liking Tessera because once it's in your collection, it's in your collection.
Yeah.
I've come to love it, and here's why. My business is built around customer service, customer satisfaction. And when I have the beginning breeders or the first time buyers, maybe I want to breed somewhere down the road. What kind of cool animals can I produce? And I love sharing with them the Christmas morning effect. I have a snow and I want to produce something cool. Great. I have this classic red factor het snow tessera right here. And here's what you're potentially going to get your very first clutch of corn snakes. And there's 32 different possibilities. They're not going to identify red factor right away, but they'll see that some might be a little brighter colors, or the snow might be a little more pink. They'll see a little bit. Yeah. But Tessera just adds that one more flavor into it, being a dominant gene, that it's really exciting for those beginning breeders. The other is my market likes Tessera. They like the garter snake checkered stripy appearance, especially on some of the high contrast animals. Fire Tesseras are hot looking animals.
Tesseras, I love Tessera. My first clutch of corns was Tessera. The first corn snake I ever held back was Tessera. For me, I love striped corn snakes, so it was pretty easy. But that Christmas morning effect, one of the clutches I do every year, and it was one of my first, and I've given her a couple years off, but is a Tessera Motley Ultramel Het Anery to an Anery Het Motley Het Amel. And there are so many different phenotypes you can get out of it. I've had 14 egg clutches that all 14 animals were different. I show those pictures to people and I'm like, look, if you want to breed corn snakes and you want to pair from me and you get this and this, you can have a clutch that looks like this, and it's 14 different animals in one picture. And that's so cool. It's super neat.
It is.
Yeah. I really like it. I definitely over time have come to appreciate less of it, if that makes sense. Like,
you can overdo it, right?
Yeah.
And like I held back
in
a
moderation.
Ton of Tessera. Yeah.
I've come to like it.
I've held back a ton of Tessera, and then I stopped and I was like, if I only hold back all the Tesseras because I think they're the best looking animals from what I produced those years, I've sold a lot of that stuff off because I'm like, dude, I'll produce nothing but Tessera. And I hate Tessera to Tessera pairings. But it's also kind of funny when you pair Tessera to Tessera and you only get 75% Tessera because that's you know what I mean? Because it's a co-dom, not a full dominant. That's why we don't go Tessera to a normal pattern and get 100% Tesseras. But there's a lot of little things like that. One gene combination it's been getting more popular. I see more people working with it, and I kind of question it. Do you do any hypoberry stuff?
I do not. Have enough in my collection that is of age in the strawberry gene.
See, I've got a male strawberry snow that produced this year to a salmon snow Tessera. Amazing clutch. Really small babies, which was kind of weird. Maybe it was just the first time male and female. But I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I could pair him to one of my ghost females that's Het Amel and get 100% hypoberries. And I just, I kind of noticed I saw a lot more hypoberries this year than I have ever seen before. I didn't know if you were.
It does seem to be raising in popularity. In my market, however, no one's really working with the strawberry gene as a focus. There may be animals here and there, but I don't see a huge focus on strawberry or hypoberry.
Strawberry is a tough one because it's so similar to a lot of things, and when you put it to a lot of other genes, you can't tell. And hypoberry is kind of the other one that's like that. There's a lot of hypoberries that you can't really tell. Is it hypoberry? Is it hypo? Is it strawberry? Where does that line drawn? And that can become difficult. I guess it's kind of like ultra, right? Like ultra is a gene that exists, but how many times have you ever seen ultra? Visual ultras, right? And I don't. I think Justin just got one. You got a visual ultra anery, right?
Yeah.
And it's a badass animal. It's killer.
Well, it's an ultra anery tessera.
Yeah,
I love that snake.
But it's
oh my
visual
god,
ultra, which is
It's
how
such a
many
good
people
looking
work
animal.
with visual ultra, and that's kind of the can we even tell when we have visual ultras? And that's that's kind of where strawberry falls for me, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to raise my hand. I have a salmon ultra anery that until it was an adult and gave me babies, I thought it was a salmon ultramel anery.
Yeah,
Bred it with the snow, and the numbers didn't lie. Everything was red factor ultramel anery or salmon ultramel anery.
Yeah.
So
that's
proved him out as being ultra.
It's a tough one, man. That's it's really cool. That snake that Justin got is striking. When he showed it to me, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. But at the same time, kind of could have looked at it and been like, man, it almost looks ultramel. But it's hey, when you're buying from good people, when you're buying people that know their genetics, when you're buying from people that know what they're doing, that plays a huge factor in this. People getting into breeding that don't do their homework and are buying from people that are selling, AMLs for $25, buy one get two free or whatever. They're probably not going to tell you what the heads are. They're probably not going to spend the time of day. They might not even know. So.
Yeah, that ultra anery though, like that was one snake that's like every time I passed by, it was Whistler's table. It's like every time I passed by that table, I stopped and looked at that thing because it stood out. So it was just so interesting, like the chaotic tessera pattern that it has, and then it's just got a lot of yellow and stuff on it. It's
a good snake, man.
So gorgeous.
Yeah, I'll have to get a picture of that from you sometime.
Yeah. I just shed the other day, so I need to get it outside and take a picture again.
Man, I wish it was female because I got a male anery.
It is.
Oh, it is female. Ooh, yeah. We might have to link up because I have a male. My yellowhead male stripe is proven time and time again.
Have a son.
Well, he's had ultra. So if you have any. Well, no, because you would have ultramels. Because I paired him to a snow and I paired him to a het amel, and I only ever got ultramels. So he's het ultra. So if he paired to her, you could guaranteed have ultras, which is kind of.
I'm talking about that oddball anery male that I have from you.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. I ain't been knowing about what that corn snake is. That's corn snake.
I was talking to Tony D about it at Daytona, and
looks buff.
Buff anery is what he thinks it is because Sarah posted a buff anery not that long ago, and I was like, that looks exactly like that weird corn that me and Chris don't know what's going on with.
So which one of my parents, which one of my snakes is buff? So the only thing I can think is that my male ultramel anery or ultramel motley tessera, who's fathered a lot of my clutches because I love that particular phenotype, and he's het anery. He must be buff. Because I definitely all my AMLs, all my aneries, and he came from SMR, who used to do a little bit of work with buff. He must be buff, and if he is, he doesn't look it. And that's one.
I showed Tony, and he's like, "Yeah, if they're if I picture buff anery in my head, that's what it would probably look like." So,
and you know what's funny is a lot of the snakes from those clutches. Like half of them come out like that. It's not all of them. And I've held some back and they didn't end up getting that color. I had siblings to your snake that I held back multiple of to see which ones were going to look like that. Cause I've sent some out for my first couple of years breeding. I didn't hold back any of the aneries and a few of those aneries got that look. And I was like, oh God, well, I'm going to hold like 3 back. None of them look like that. And then the one that you got just happened to look like, couldn't tell it when it came out of the egg, right?
Yeah.
There's no way you could tell. When I sent it to Jake, it just looked like an anery tessera. It's tessera, right?
No, that was the
No.
female.
That was okay. Yeah, it just looks like a anery right out of the egg, and then ate a couple times, sent it to Jake. It was good, and now that snake looks insane.
Yeah, I got to get some updated pictures of him too. It's all good. That's the problem. That's where I'm at. Is like I have to downsize some, but everything I have left currently, besides babies this year, is like really choice stuff that I don't want to part with because there's so much cool stuff I can do with it in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
sucks. Yep.
I just need a bigger room. That's what I figured out the solution is just get more space.
No, you need another room, right? You know what I mean?
Trying to convince Katie to let me knock down Ellie's wall and then just expand into her room, and she can like sleep on the couch or something.
Do you park a car in your garage?
No.
My man. Do I have an idea for you?
It's been on the marital negotiation table for a long time, but the issue
you don't
is
even need the whole garage. Just
all my podcast stuff is right here, and that takes about half the garage right now.
Well,
and then we'd have to enclose the garage. I'd want to put in like a mini split or something.
Yeah, it's a great idea, Justin.
I want to, but I don't know because we also have a ton of crap in here. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with all that? You know,
I literally have a massive garage with a dedicated gaming area that I was planning on closing in since I built my house 6 years ago, and I still haven't done it. So if that tells you anything about this,
but I will say having a smaller room like I do, it is starting to get very frustrating because I've got a table that's now too big with the moving the BioGs in a stack and stuff along one wall, and it's just I'm too big to like being 6'4" and 260 something pounds. Like it's hard to move around in a small room that's like floor to ceiling snakes and stuff, and it's been getting frustrating, like really irritating actually as of late.
I would say that closing off half your garage and moving a lot of your collection out there, maybe even moving some of the. Well, you wouldn't want to podcast in the room because you want to smoke cigars and stuff. That makes it tough. Or podcasting in the backyard, or I don't know. That might not work either. But for me, the answer is going to be closing some area. Some 10 by 10 in my garage, just so I can play my Warhammer out there in the AC. My biggest thing is just being able to be out there in the AC.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gotten so damn hot, and then obviously not going to smoke cigars in there with the snakes. Probably a bad idea. But I could smoke a cigar and then walk into the room and be in the AC and then have, for me, it's like I want like one wall. If I had one wall, I'm good. And the only thing I want to do, I have everything in cages big enough. I want to be able to move pines and stuff to FB90s.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get my bigger snakes into bigger enclosures. They deserve it. They're big. Hell, my male northern pine is easily 6.5 foot, if not over that. It feels like he's growing every day. Yeah. And what I have him in is not adequate. I would never tell anybody to do what I'm doing, and that sucks to say. So hopefully that's why I'm going to buy like 2 levels or 3 levels of ARS FB90s, just because like I got to put them in something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, was there anything else we were wanting to touch upon?
Man, Alan, so excited that you came on. Thank you so much for talking with us. You're studious in your methodology, and you're well spoken. You were one of the first people we talked about having on, and I'm glad that you were finally able to make it.
I'm happy to come on. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and always chatting about snakes is a good time. So thank you so much.
If people want to get in touch as far as like availability and things like that, or if they had any questions, where's the best place for them to do that?
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram under Rock Creek Corns, and you can always look me up on Morph Market or send me an email at rockcreekcorns@gmail.com.
There you go. Well, this episode was brought to you by blackboxcages.com. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram. Use the code THN at checkout if you end up buying a rack or cage, or shave a little bit off the top. Help you out a little bit. SilentHoodReptiles.com. Also follow JT and Mindy on Instagram and Facebook. I need to check and see if they've updated that for sale page yet, because I mean, I don't need to go on there and I don't need to be looking at it, but I gotta, because who knows? I feel like there's a ton of stuff JT produced that we also don't know he produced. Like I feel like he's only given us a very small smidge of like what he's actually popped out so far. So check that out. And then fullbeasapparel.com, new CornStars shirts available now. Use code THN at checkout as well. Get 15% off, which I think usually equates to like free shipping more or less. So if not a little more than that. But thank you all. We will be back Monday for Snakes and Stogies. As far as I know, I don't think there's anything going on.
I know we got a
holidays,
couple,
right?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm
so
on call until the 25th, so I don't know.
Ew.
I know that we have a couple more guests lined up, hopefully before the end of the year for CornStars. Been reaching out to them, talk to them, so hopefully get at least, man, I'd love to see 3 more shows, if not 4 more shows before the end of the year.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
We'll make it happen. We appreciate it. Everybody have a good evening. We'll see you later.
Bye.